Le Mali fait face à une agression d'éléments terroristes venant du Nord, dont le monde entier sait désormais la brutalité et le fanatisme. Les terroristes doivent savoir que la France sera toujours là lorsqu'il s'agit non pas de ses intérêts fondamentaux, mais des droits d'une population, celle du Mali, qui veut vivre libre et dans la démocratie. Merci.
France's President François Hollande saying that, they're going to be there for the population of Mali to try and put an end to terrorist elements from the north, Al-Qaeda-linked terrorist elements trying to take over the entire country. I think he's right that the world wants the fanaticism to stop, but should we be sending troops? Should we be engaged? Canada has decided that it will support those that are engaging to stop the violence, but they will not send our own combat troops. Here's a statement from the Prime Minister's office. While the government of Canada is not and will not be considering a direct Canadian military mission in Mali, Canada is prepared, consistent with the UN Security Council resolution, to provide limited and clearly defined logistical support to assist the forces that are intervening in Mali. At no time will Canadian Armed Forces members be participating in direct action against insurgent forces in Mali. What does that mean? It means we'll be sending a C-17 Globemaster, that is a giant plane to deliver equipment, supplies, and anything else that's needed. The Brits will be supplying too, and apparently the Americans will be supplying intelligence. Should we all be getting involved, though? Let's turn to our friend J.D. Gordon, who is a military analyst, former Pentagon spokesman. He joins us now from Washington. J.D., you and I have talked about this before, and the question of whether we should have been involved in Libya. Was it the right thing to do? There's some blowback from that, blowback over the Arab Spring. Now we're looking at another confrontation, this time in Mali. Should Western forces be getting involved in an internal conflict?
Hi, Brian. Thanks for having me back. I think that we should be supporting from a logistics standpoint like we're planning to do right now, and from a training standpoint, which we have been doing in Mali. But it's a real mess. In mentioning Libya, that's one of the reasons Mali is falling apart like it is, because a lot of the fighters who are in Libya took the heavy weapons with them back to Mali. And so without the French intervention, as far as the French troops, French aircraft actually bombing some of these strongholds in the north, this country could be overrun by Al-Qaeda and Ansar Dine, which is another Islamic group.
Well, I was reading from our friends at Breitbart.com about, and they cited several sources, including the New York Times, so it's not stuff they're making up, saying, look, there are American-trained forces, including some of the commanders of the insurgents, because the Americans, your government was in there training the Mali military, and then these guys defected and went over to the Islamist side. And so now you're not only getting the heavy weapons coming in from Libya, but you've got some top-notch guys who've been trained by the best troops in the world, who know the counterinsurgency, the counterterrorism tactics that will be used, and they're on the other side now. This is where I think Ron Paul in the Republican primary was able to generate an awful lot of support with people going, what are we doing? Western countries getting involved in other countries' internal affairs. And it starts to ring true and bring people in.
It does. One of the big problems, though, is if you have an insurgency like that in a very weak government, you have a training ground for Al-Qaeda and a sanctuary, essentially. The United States had to go to war in Afghanistan to root Al-Qaeda out of there. Al-Qaeda doesn't really operate too well anymore out of Afghanistan. There's an element of them in Pakistan. There's a lot in Yemen. But whatever there are these weak governments in Muslim-majority countries, Al-Qaeda is liable to basically rally people and conduct terrorist attacks or plan from there. So that's why we can't get too involved in Mali, because clearly it's an internal struggle between the Tuareg rebels, Islamists up in the north. Now Al-Qaeda's basically came in and trumped them, so they're leading the fight against the government. But we just can't leave it alone, because if we leave it alone, you end up with another Afghanistan, and then you just have Al-Qaeda training and planning.
And that's a fair point. Maybe we can show people the map just quickly, and this will help explain why France is so concerned about this. Mali is in north-central Africa. It's just below Algeria there. Niger off to the east. Mauritania to the west. So you go north. The northern section is already controlled by Islamists. You go through Algeria, and you are at France's doorstep on the southern part.
Right.
That's part of why France is so concerned about this. Here's my question. In Afghanistan and a lot of other countries, the Western powers have gone in and decided they're going to do nation building. And that has sometimes, I mean, we're still doing it in Afghanistan. Should we go and just do what my friend John Robson calls the Jacksonian route, pound them and leave?
That's a hard decision to make, too, because if you just pound them and leave completely, you don't establish any type of secure society, a society that can actually have any type of economic growth. And basically, so you just pound them and leave, the problem comes right back. So it has to be a fine line between nation building and between just pounding them and leaving. So I don't think we've gotten it right in a lot of places we have been. I don't think we're getting it right now in Afghanistan. I think that in Mali we should be in a support role to try to make sure that even if the French want to lead, that's something for the United States. The French are leading. That's fine for me. I mean, I think they should be aggressive and assertive because terrorism for Mali is much closer to France's doorstep. The rebels in Mali are saying they're going to bomb France now. They're going to conduct terrorism inside France. So that's why it's very important for the French to get involved and help out.
We got about a minute left. I want to ask you about this. France, once again, is going into Africa to a former colony. They're not waiting for the UN. They're not waiting for NATO. They're not waiting for anybody else. They see a problem, and they're going in and bombing and engaging in military action that other countries can't get away with. Your country couldn't do that, but France has done it here. Right. They've done it in the Ivory Coast. They've done it elsewhere. Why the double standard?
Well, I think people look at France in a different light than the United States, and they're able to get away with a lot more as far as being aggressive and assertive with their military. We would never get away with that in the United States or in Canada. But if France can get it done, good for them. I applaud their military airstrikes, and they ought to keep going and so they can help rout these al-Qaeda extremists in Mali.
All right, J.D. Gordon, good talking to you again, my friend. We'll chat soon.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.